You got to come to love it with Michael too, because he does some. He will be like, I know that I just wrecked your shit, and I'm holding cards over you.
But I'm really hungry. I think you should buy us dinner. Let's get into the...
All right, so we'll welcome Melrose Maniacs. Thanks for coming over to the mini episode side of our endeavors. I am still Wayne, and beside me is the blessing in my life of a co-host.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet, Wayne. I feel the same way.
Lisa's just the best, and that's enough. Sorry. But what we're doing right now is we're taking a little side trip from Season 1, Episode 9 of Melrose Place. Leaving all of the Billy shit behind. And so this is a gloves off, all spoilers consideration of what if we ask, what if Michael Mancini and Jake Hansen were to switch bodies, a la the classic, not so classic, body swap film, The Change Up with Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman.
The thing I love about the body swap genre is that there is this idea that it is all about that old saying of, walking in another person's shoes, walking a mile in another person's shoes to understand their life. However, so I think you and producer Ilana had some really fun, ideas of what you thought would happen, and we came with some fun ideas of what we thought might happen.
Yeah.
I think that for me, my first reaction was very much imagining Jake in surgery being questioned once about his credentials and
the rage.
I just imagined people being cut up and on the table, him knowing that he's not really a surgeon. But the thing is, again, he lives in the handsome bubble. So I feel like after maybe 12 hours of people complimenting him, he's like, I can do this. Cutting someone open, nurse going, doctor, why are you doing that? That's absolutely terrible. And him going, what? Why are you trying to control me? Just smashing everything.
I guess you just don't trust me to be a surgeon.
Storming off and, leaving appendices in the wake.
Just leaving. If only that body swap were to happen when Peter wanted to kill Amanda.
Oh my God.
He could have just dialed up a Jake in Michael who, rather than feeling pressured to try to murder Amanda, is instead doing his best to save her life. Not having any of the skills, but thinking that he can work this out, and he's got it because it's Amanda.
You know what? That's brilliant. That is definitely a Peter Burns move. Is taking someone who he knows is so full of himself that he will kill her before he will admit that he doesn't know what he's doing. That is, I love this.
He burned down that shop. He just burned down his own shop. By accident. I mean, which is a misfortune I wouldn't wish on anyone. And yet, in plot, it's like...
The funny thing is, I don't know if you remember correctly, but it's Amanda and him. Because he
leaves a torch going
He leaves it, and she grabs her purse, and it goes... boop. Yeah. And then they're like, let's go to dinner.
I don't even feel like that was a metaphor for the relationship, oily rag meet torch. It wasn't explosive.
It was, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. And they both were like, listen.
I might be asking too much for the metaphors here for them to really follow through on, now that I think about it. My vision in part, we got the idea of when in time it would happen would be fun. I just want to get this on the record because this was the fun part to launch it for me, is that you really launch from that scene in Season 1, Episode 9, the grass is greener on the other side conversation. Somehow, we'll come up with it, don't worry. Somehow, they fall into the pool.
Yes.
And on this clear day at Melrose Place, the pool is hit by a bolt of lightning. And they both...
It could be faulty electrical wire.
That is a terribly maintained apartment complex.
And you cut away to Michael with one of the how-to books.
Yeah, Michael was trying to fix something.
And scratching his head and shrugging. And just doing something.
There's a scene.
How bad could it be? I'm a doctor.
If I hurt myself, I'll just fix myself. I can see the scene of him frustrated at the beginning of the body swap movie, like, you know, the foreshadowing of Jane goes, hey, honey, it's crazy. They say it's going to be a lightning storm this afternoon. He's like, that's stupid. There's never lightning in L.A. Oh, this electrical thing here. He's like working with it. And then, and go, because you think, oh, that's going to be the lightning. And it's a misdirect because the lightning never comes. And then you see him as the orchestrator of his own. And he goes, oh, you know what? This new intern Kimberly really needs my assistance. I'm gonna go attend to that. And he goes off, and then
well, you say instrument of his own demise, but there's a lot of fun things to imagine. The real Michael Mancini, the Michael Mancini, as you so aptly put it, having the Jake Handsome body and single life with which to do what he pleases. I mean, the possibilities are perverse and endless.
He is not trying to learn a lesson in
no.
that body. He's trying to. Producer Chris
do as much damage.
Producer Chris suggested my all-time favorite scenario without hesitation.
Wait.
Do you want to say it or shall I?
I got to swallow. I don't want to do a spit take.
Oh, yes. You want me to do it? Okay, so producer Chris, without hesitation, looked at me and said, well, of course, the first thing he would do is he would film himself jacking off in as many crazy, strange situations as possible. Full body shots, saying his name, probably holding up his driver's license so everybody knows it's really
giving
him.
Out personal information like his social security number.
Recording it.
I am Jake Hansen, and I now stick my finger in my butt.
And yes, exactly. Lots of fingers and butts. Recording it, then making copies, putting copies in different locations. And you know that moment in the Body Swap movie where the two people get together and they go, let's bump our chest, let's recreate the moment. And then they come back, or they learn the lesson.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
And Michael's like, they swap back, they're having their moment, and Jake's like, oh, well, I learned that, maybe I shouldn't always lose my temper all the time.
Yeah.
And, try to just not let people tell me what I'm good at, but instead just be good at what I'm good at. And then Michael goes, I learned that I can now do whatever I want to because you did not for a second think to arm yourself with some blackmail collateral. And so I
feel like this is one of the ones
everywhere.
that Michael will deliver with his hand on Jake's back.
Oh,
so
hey buddy, come on, it's me, Michael. What are you saying? Look over there. I mean, he
has these tapes everywhere.
He's full steam.
Sorry, I didn't want to
Oh no, but yeah.
Break it to Jake.
If you're body swapping, the first thing Michael's doing is he's getting some VHS evidence of you doing things that you don't want to. And by the way,
compromising positions.
And here's another thing. And then I imagine Jake countering, well, I did the same thing to you. Michael's like, first of all, no, you didn't. Second, you cannot operate a camera. I've seen you. And he goes, and he goes, and by the way, I don't give a shit. That's the difference. I want my stuff out there. You're too handsome for porn. You really, this would mess up your shit. So maybe don't. And Jake would just be like, I hate you. This is why we never have stories.
Jake was never an orchestrator of a scheme, I think. Just
no, if you'll notice,
by virtue of both being too dumb and being ostensibly too upright.
Well, if I remember correctly, I don't think that Jake and Michael ever really, they never really collide because the thing is, Michael.
I mean, they're tunnel brothers because between the two of them, all the ladies.
Well. Everybody in that complex marries Michael at some point.
Yes,
so,
it's the Mancini on the mailbox.
The Mancini on the mailbox. And so the thing I think that would just, they don't, the body swap is so perfect because they really don't interact that much throughout the course of the series because Michael's involved with actual schemes. Jake's involved with, emotional explosions. So Michael would have weaponized him against himself and Jake would have blown himself up in something at some point because Michael is too crafty. That's why I love the body swap idea.
Yeah, there's just, and I this isn't fully organic, but I liked the idea that also his PS would be, and I left you with a venereal disease or 3, because that's
100%.
Michael with the confidence that this is a temporary situation.
Oh, he knows he's getting back as soon as I learned my lesson.
Raw dog,
Oh, he's
and then they come to me to fix it.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. He's like, and I've got the cure for chlamydia right
Maybe
here, buddy
that's
boy.
the scenario where it actually all comes out is when Jake's in for a urology consult
I like that.
because he's got some problem that's unspeakable. And Michael shows up smugly to be like, oh, yeah,
I'm
I
opening
was
up
wondering when that was going to come back. So
He goes,
something else you should know.
I'm opening up a clinic at South Central. You should go by.
Let me show you a tape.
You're going to want to pay attention to this part, buddy.
In the room.
So this is when you got it. See this lovely woman right here? Her name's Megan. She'll factor in later. Yeah, this is
Your butt sore.
is your butt sore. That is horrifying. And Jake goes, yes, thank you.
yeah.
And then Michael's like, yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't touch your butt. I sat on the toilet forever, and like now you have hemorrhoids.
But that's amazing. That's amazing as a petty revenge.
He's like,
I got a lot of
how did
reading
you
done.
think of this? How did you even think? He's like, I don't know. Like Jane really pisses me off, and I don't really act on it.
I got a lot of reading done. Oh, that's so amazing. But here's the thing though.
Mm-hmm.
Jake being a rage monster, whether he's learned his lesson or not, just beats the life out of Michael at that point, right? Because Michael's whole thing is that, other than like maybe one instance when he had to physically overcome Peter to save a man his life, he gets the tail end of every physical confrontation, including some that he originates. I'm thinking of
he starts fights and runs.
the original.
Love it.
Having hated Michael up to the time, the moment where Rob Estes pops in as his first character, and I'm going to talk about it. I don't know. This isn't the body switch anymore.
It's fine.
This is whatever. Just the moment where he's jealous, right? Because Jane went kind of on a date with the Rob Estes character, who's like a contractor, and Michael takes a run at him, and he's got the construction dudes around, and he kind of gives them like a "don't worry about it," and just sort of handily trounces Michael with leaving his ass in the dirt dust and being like, "I didn't do anything with your wife. Go talk to her." Essentially, it just like, violence is not the answer, but it is kind of a satisfying way to actualize confrontation on screen. And I love that moment. Sorry.
No.
And Jake being prone to punch people and being like the one punch knockout artist. Michael might be dead.
Michael's not a fighter, and he knows it, or at least he realizes it in that moment.
He loses his head and outstrips his grasp or whatever.
Well, here's what I would counter that we're not acknowledging right here is I feel like Michael would deliver all this information to Jake in a very calm way, and just be like, hey, like, this is a fact, and also I know you're probably going to lose your temper right now, and you want to punch me. I also need to remind you, I'm your building manager, so there's a lot that you need to take into account because I'm scheming as hell. I'll just cut off your water. I won't do anything that you can catch me on. Like, I just feel like
he'd have
such collateral on Michael that on Jake that I do think this is why we never see these two intersect. I think Michael would just own him too hard because Jake's a man of his fists. Michael is a man of his schemes. He very rarely, he learned it with the Rob Estes. He was like, oh man, I'm not doing that again.
But part of what you're saying, I think one caveat is Michael doesn't always come up on the winning side of schemes.
Oh,
he was forced into a marriage for criminy sake.
I think maybe more than once.
So he loves to scheme. He's not like, he doesn't have a 1,000 batting average on them. Is there any chance that Jake might have something that there's always that that turn where like, I don't care, or you could do that, but then this would happen? Yeah,
the problem is Michael's a doctor and Jake is just some rando who leaves his motorcycle in. I just think
another co-star in the episode that launched this whole conversation was his motherfucking motorcycle in the courtyard, like right next to the pool. Like, it's he's really putting his stink all over that place.
Honestly, he could punch Michael. At that point, he's getting arrested. He has already had a brush with the law earlier in this episode, and Michael is a white doctor who is also a building manager with a wife. Jake I know you're a white man, but hey, in the white man poker game, I don't think you're holding the winning hand, my friend.
There's no bluffing for Jake. He's on the path to like 3-time loser. Is that a real thing?
Also, at a certain point, Michael becomes the kind of person who's happy to get punched in the face so that he can take a picture and hold it against you later. Janie! He came and hit me.
Okay, I'll take it back to our premise, but as a side note, I really want to watch for the first time he does that fucking thing, the poor me thing.
Which one? When Michael does?
When Michael does the poor me thing for the first time is going to be fun.
Michael playing his victim?
That is just like his, that's just in his bag of tricks. That's like,
he knows he can't fight as well as anybody else. But what he can do is be a more pathetic victim, and that's why I kind of love. That's why I love him and Peter Burns, because they're not fighters.
You got to come to love it with Michael too, because he does some. He'll be like, I know that I just wrecked your shit and I'm holding cards over you.
But I'm really hungry. I think you should buy us dinner.
Yeah,
it's
Michael,
just
like
a little shit.
It's like he's got a reality distortion field, especially for Jane, who's like, really, they did, Josie Bissett did not get.
She was so boring. But you were reminding me.
Yeah.
Michael, I just love thinking about Michael in terms of like his capability for violence. He's not a violent man. I remembered the episode, like we haven't gotten to it yet, but everybody, if you're on here, you've seen it, where he takes Sydney to a cabin out in the boonies to kill her.
Yes, he does.
And it's really like a Three Stooges episode, because she's just like la 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 la, like he puts poison and she's like, I'm throwing the poison in the trash, or something happens where he's about to eat it and he's like, no, oh my gosh, it's so funny. Even the part that
it's like
when
Elmer
he's
Fudd,
playfully gonna drown her, and
like,
people walk by, and he's like, oh,
it's like Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny sort of, but she's her being Bugs.
Exactly. I can't take Michael seriously as a violent person, but I do imagine him like plotting somebody's like their fall from grace. Like that's where he really shot. When you see him realizing that he can't fight people, then instead he's going to have to scheme. Ugh, that's when it gets great for me.
No, it is, and like I think earlier I talked about like one version of the show is about Amanda, but really like the best version of the show, if you consider it as an arc and not like just a bunch of random people moving in and out, really is like what Dr. Mancini. He's the guy who's in it the whole time, and like
he's Melrose Mancini.
He's gonna win you over. He's gonna win you over. He's a love to hate guy, and then you just realize that you're loving him.
You're completely right, and I also feel like it'll be really interesting for people who are experiencing Melrose Place for the first time, because you guys experienced the same thing I watched with Chris, where it was like just like you feel very anti-Michael at a certain point.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't even remember exactly when the turning point is. It's I think when he acknowledges his own ridiculousness and his scheminess, and then it's just like, you love this man. You want like by the time he's saving Amanda from an appendectomy she doesn't need, I'm like already so on board.
Yeah, it might be different moments for different people. I think I've said this before on a spoiler, and we'll probably revisit it plenty of times. But for me, it was like after the amnesia, just watching that stupid nice version of Michael. And then when I don't remember, I think it was organic. I don't think
remembers he's an asshole.
He nearly gets hit by a car, and that gives him a flashback to the accident that gave him the amnesia, and that starts to reawaken the Michael in Michael. The first time you see a real glimmer in his eye post amnesia, I'm like, I literally said aloud, "Thank God,
he's back."
I thanked God. So yes, I'm trying to. What else would be fun? Is it fun to see Jake in Michael interacting with Jane in any way?
Oh my God!
Points?
Knowing
what does that look like?
Well,
we know that Jake's kind of bad at kissing, unfortunately.
Oh my God, he's terrible at everything. We know too.
Except bikes. He's an artist with a motorbike.
Well, let's think to ourselves as people who have gone through the entire series. Let's remember what we know of Jake and Jane's relationship. It was so nothing to write home about. I cannot even remember what happened.
They dressed the same for a minute.
They dressed the same.
I just remember him being in the garage. That suddenly was
her design
a setting.
Studio.
and her design studio that he was wearing flannel and doing some shit, and then she walked in wearing flannel. It might have been around the time that they had the brief breakup, and he fucked the lady who was coming in as a spy momentarily, but whatever.
Oh, yeah, that
But
sounds
no,
about right.
it was like, I mean, that makes it sound way more interesting than it was. Every time I see that part, I process it a little bit like, can you really be mad at him? It's like you guys broke up, and like a point that we often come around with, like, this is all Jake knows to do when presented with a woman in an interaction.
He's slept with everyone in the complex practically at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know listen, you already know what the deal is with Jake.
Yeah.
So I agree. I feel like it's like you, and also Jane. Jane is just has the worst taste in men.
It's kind of whoever's there in a weird way. Like
yes.
She appreciates, I think, being pursued.
Yes, and I think that I mean, honestly, given what she has experienced in relationships, the fact that Jake was never actively planning to kill her and take over her business feels like it's kind of a win. Like, honestly, as boring as their relationship was for me, I think it was one of her less destructive ones.
Well, it was a bit of a repeat of a dynamic with Joe, I think.
Oh my God.
Which, like, Jake and Joe were soulmates, and I don't know if it's shipping exactly, but like they clearly should have stayed in each other's lives.
They were
and it
very
been the best
interesting
for them.
together, honestly.
They worked, whether it was the lovers, that friends weird in between thing where it's getting murky and he's just showing up for her as if he's a boyfriend. There's something there, but yeah, they went through that arc of it coming around to some sort of thing about you don't trust me.
Yes, I
think
so.
Him just being a petulant dick. Kind of out of nowhere, just when things are getting serious. So it's like really more so that he's scared, probably.
Oh yeah, he always does the thing where he makes it that it's their fault,
and it's some sort of matter of principle, because that is kind of like his what he gets off on seeing himself as forthright in a way.
Yes, 100%. He does this thing where if he is backed into a wall, it reminds me very much about how, like, sometimes with certain conversations with people, they just quote the Bible, like that's the end of the story, and you're like, oh, but I don't believe in that, so what are you gonna do? Like, oh, okay, great, Lord of the Rings, like, and then he does this thing where he's like, hey, that's just, I'm a man, and this is what men do, and you're like, oh, that's so adorable. I don't prescribe to that, so it means nothing to me. You would have to elaborate further. But that's always for him the final word.
That's a point of view, not a fact of reality.
Exactly.
Or biology, even. It's just
but no one ever points these things out to him.
To quote the dude, that's just like your opinion, man.
It totally is just your opinion. But, that said, it makes me very happy because I happen to know, as someone who's gone through through all of the series, that I feel like he gets his fucking comeuppance when he is in a relationship with Allison, because Allison can out Jake till the cows come home. Like, she manages to just manipulate him at every turn, because the thing is, no one can prey on a Captain Save-A-Ho like Allison. Like, she
perpetual victim?
Yeah, he literally had to move away. He's like, I gotta go. I can't remember. Did she leave before him or whatever? But like, she
kind of disappeared, and she was off in rehab.
But he was so broken by that point that he's like, I gotta get out of here.
There were some faked faxes from Atlanta.
Oh my gosh!
I love that that's a detail, but
yeah,
no, that is like the sort of like a. They talk about puzzle pieces coming together,
100%.
But that was like in a very toxic way. Like it's like a. It's actually a puzzle showing like a horse's diseased anus is what that is. It's like that was bad. They it's no good. It's for her.
Well, the thing is with him is this is just my thought. He struggles with any woman with a shred of independence. And she is so codependent that she's like, oh, if you think you're never going to be able to yell at me for my independence, because I'm going to make you do everything for me. And so what ends up happening is he's like, he can't win. He's like...
It's like, oh, I got what I wanted and it's terrible.
That's exactly
That is hell.
Because she's like, if you think I'm ever going to overstep by putting money in your bank account or by like providing something for you that you didn't ask for, in turn, what I will do is ask you for the thing that you need. And like, he literally cannot keep up with her needs. She eats him alive, and it is absolutely glorious. Ugh.
That is fucking amazing. That was. I had a bunch of other shit to say, but I feel like that's almost like that's so strong that I'd want to say something like, "Remember, Mass, writing all of this down." I don't know. Did you guys have any other pitches for the change-up thing that are worth throwing around?
Would Jake somehow cause Michael to lose his medical license while...
I think the scenarios do.
I need to ask you the question of how the hell did that man not lose it on his own? Because, I mean, that hospital is wild. Because, like...
The swings between ostracized and chief resident are zonkers.
There's no middle ground for these guys. Like, they're either doing illegal stuff or they're running the hospital. It's out of control.
And would Jake be working on patients in the hallway just like he worked on his motorcycle?
He would be giving appendectomies by the pool.
Yeah.
That is absolutely, I think that's, and also, and it was like, Allison stepping up, Jake, there's blood everywhere. I can't get to my little car. And Jane's like, I have a dress I designed as a scrub. Do you want to use it? And he's like, that is so ugly. My patient will be naked. I like the side operations, just people screaming. Jake's like, shut up! I know what I'm doing. Yeah, good stuff at Melrose Place.
Yeah, well, I think though that Michael would just scheme his way back into renewing his medical license. That's what he did.
He'd see it as a child. He'd be like, "Oh, you think this is hard? I'm about to blackmail someone."
But because I mean, like by the end,
we'll get it back.
There was that whole weird thing where he generated the sexual harassment complaint against himself.
Oh,
in order to, right? It was like it was like a Joker scheme. It was like a clockwork that could never work. And he still kind of like came out the other side okay.
He
like it really
does.
shouldn't have. Producer Chris?
I think he would then, number 2 movie, change up 2.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
He would take out whoever's the chief or whatever to dinner.
With
take
Jake's
him
body?
To the fountain.
Oh.
Pee in the fountain, swap with him, do a bunch of these videos.
See, can I tell you?
That becomes
My pitch for movie number 2.
Chris really wants pornographic blackmail to be involved in the scenario. And
here's
I'm
pitch
fine
for
with
the
that.
sequel. My pitch for the sequel is a derivative of that a bit. Actually, I like the idea of them coming to terms with one another. They're both, they're like, hey, everything's fine. We're all friends. We learned a lesson. The second movie, they don't even swap again. Michael goes, ugh, I'm sorry. I also did different kinds of blackmail when I had swapped you. I used your body to have sex with the chief, and now I'm blackmailing her and because her husband. And he's like, and basically, what every movie is you realize that for 24 hours straight, Michael was videotaping with Jake's body in various sexual situations exclusively for blackmail. He has a camera. Yeah, he has a camera. Or he would buy one. And then return it the next day because of the scam. But like basically
take credit cards out in Jake's name.
100%. He would the minute he looks in the mirror, something registers, he jumps in the car, he takes off, he buys the camera, he goes to the hotel in Vegas. He's just doing it, and then all of a sudden he's back in his own body and he's like, oh, thank God I got all of that shit done before we swap back. And Jake's like, hey, buddy, I learned a lesson. I did this. And Michael's like, okay, now I'm in control.
It's not like a story, but I sort of dig a scenario where the switch just happens automatically. They don't have to work to do it like most of them. And that's all Michael gets to do. Like he never has the moment where he goes out and uses Jake Hanson's
He's racing to maximize his time
to fuck around and get the venereal diseases. No, he never leaves the hotel room.
No, he's there the whole time. He's like thinking of different scenarios. He's like, listen, I only have so much time. Jake's not bright, but he will learn a lesson soon. And so he's just like going.
Well, and Michael, I feel like it's germane that he did have the sideline as a stripper.
Oh,
as a dancer.
Oh my gosh,
I feel like that plays into this somehow.
There is a logo.
That mind and those hips
Once the sun
in a Jake Hansen
sets,
package.
Once the sun sets and he goes from the motel to the local strip club to perform, that's when he's like, "Excuse me, can you do me a favor? Would you mind filming me?" And he's like, "Yes," and he just goes crazy. Like, it would be Michael Mancini, Magic Mancini. One night only.
Oh.
The full Mancini.
Oh, the full Mancini! I love the full Mancini.
I have always liked, theoretically, the concept of a sequel that's not in genre with the film before it, but continues the story.
Oh, hey, I
You
feel
know.
like that always works for me. As long as we're, just being goofy. That's all that matters.
Yeah, coming in 2032, from Melrose Madness Studios.
At 2023 even. Guys, I think the fact that Wayne is traveling through time means that we've done a great job here, right?
That
I
was
feel
a
like we
fun
can wrap it up.
conversation. I think we changed it up pretty nice.
I liked it.
It might be a topic we return to in the future.
It might be a movie we
Maniacs.
write
Yeah.
and that we film.
Yeah. This is all things are possible. Thanks again for listening. Hope you guys had fun. We had a lot of fun, and just remember, as always, that Matt is writing all of this down. Never forget.
Don't forget. Bye.
You're right. This is madness.